And welcome to Targeted Massachusetts Northeast Conference. My name is Lily, and I will be your host for the evening. The views and opinions that are expressed by our listeners are not necessarily the views of Targeted Massachusetts or myself. It is the goal of this phone conference to be a place where targeted individuals can feel free to openly and safely discuss any fears, concerns, hopes for themselves, and to offer advice, support, and encouragement for one another. It is understood that some people may not always agree with one another, so let's start the call with the willingness to agree to disagree, keeping in mind it is more important to support one another than for us to be right. With that being said, welcome to the call. It's Monday, and I live in the New England area, really close to the border of Canada, and it is cold. It is so cold today. I had to go out. I brought my dog to the groomer, and I was not liking how cold it was, and I was in a bit of a hurry. So I had my like a Birkenstock thong shoe on, and I'm like, okay. I was so spaced out, I forgot to change my shoes. So let me just say I was really cold. But I was also in a hurry, so I didn't have time to backtrack. But anyway, so that was about the start of my day, in a flurry. But I picked up my dog, and he doesn't smell like a Frito anymore. It's like a nacho chip. I'm like, yay! He smells kind of flowery, which, is better than a nacho. So, and he looks all cute. And his nails are trimmed. So anyway, that was the highlight of today. And let's see, I had a weird weekend, and my brain, I'm telling you, don't you wish you could just kind of like disconnect your brain sometimes, just like turn it off? Sometimes I just want to turn off my brain. So that would be helpful. And let's see, what else? What else is new? Anybody have anything to offer or want to chat or tell me how your day went or your weekend?
I was looking at that law today about Health and Human Services in 1968 that is supposed to protect the safety of the public from any excess radiation, and how they're supposed to check every electronic device for radiation standards. I found it on Wikipedia, and it's pretty evident that they're supposed to do that. And why they haven't been doing that, I don't know. But it's something all of us really should be aware of. There is a law that ensures the government to protect the safety of its people from any harmful radiation. If anybody gets a chance, go look at it. It's pretty interesting. Just Google radiation. Let's see, Radiation Safety Act of 1968. It's pretty interesting to read it. Anyway, that's all.
Yeah, I have a feeling this group thinks they're just above the law, though, Ken.
Yeah.
I think they realize they're breaking every treaty and law there is known to man.
Yeah, I know.
God's lost, too.
I keep trying to think something is in place to help, and just nobody oversees it and does anything about it,
I know.
Bad.
No, these neural weapon systems are just too tempting, too seductive to those in power, too powerful. They're too important to the world power so that they can keep their power. So they're going to keep it. They're going to treat people like guinea pigs. And
at some point, this has got to come under some kind of regulation. I mean, never before in history has this happened. I mean, this is all new stuff, and normally anything new that comes up ends up coming under regulations and laws. I mean, that's just history. That's just life.
Right.
So, but
right.
The problem is it's going too slow, and a lot of people are suffering. So,
oh yeah, I mean, yeah, just the very acknowledgement of the level of sophistication that the technology has been developed to. Yeah. Now, you've got groups like Musk and D-Wave and so on and so forth. They're just introducing the concept to people that they can interface with the brain. Yeah. The embedded system of this, whatever you want to call it, they've been able to interface and communicate information in and out of the brain for many, many, many decades, and they're just slowly introducing the concept, the transhumanist agenda concept to the masses slowly. I mean, they're doing it through, advertising and pop culture and movies and, when really it's been around for a very, very long time. So we're in for the long haul, I think, with this. And sadly. So you're right, Ken. I just don't know. I've tried to think of every possible solution myself, and so have some brilliant people. And they haven't been able to get anywhere either. I listen to Midge, and I listen to, all the other people who do the circuits of conferences or lecturing, and they're at a loss, too, as to where to go for help. So, we have these little phone calls that at least we can try to let some steam out about what they're doing to us and, get some support and encouragement and find the reasons why life is good, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't have no problem with that. I mean, I know what I'm supposed to do, and I do it. I mean, that's never been a problem with me. I mean, I know where I'm going, who I am, and what's to be done.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. See, I'm kind of new with the healing part for my life. That's why these calls, I kind of dove into the calls to get as much information as I could, because I was comparing all the 25 years prior, okay, to what had I experienced with this new information of finally the answer. I couldn't understand what it was, So I'm just now entering the tear down and heal phase. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have no problem understanding what was going on, because I was so indwelt in the scriptures and knew that Jericho had been taken without the firing of a shot. And so I knew the weaponry was back there, mind control and the intimidation and the trumpets blowing, and how they use sound. And that's how that Jericho fell in the Old Testament. So, but I mean, it's not only that. There's other instances where the energy was being. I mean, Moses takes a rod, and I always assimilated that with it being an antenna. I mean, he splits a rock with this rod. I thought it's got to be a weapon or an antenna. So, but anyway, so I never had doubts about that. And then, of course, I knew my health remedies. I had studied neutralizing acids and this, and I mean, they poisoned me and drugged me multiple times, but I always knew what to do to alkaline my system, because I'd read books like Back to Eden by Jethro Kloss, and I mean, I'd schooled myself in the early 20s because I suffered so much as an MK Ultra victim in my young teens. So
okay.
I couldn't trust nobody. So I did self-study, and then I just, of course, started discovering truth. Oh, two more books that are really essential on anybody's list for nutritional healing while we're discussing this is Let's Eat Right and Let's Eat Right to Keep Fit. They were written by a clinical nutritionist called Adele Davis. They're simple little paperbacks, but they open
I think my mom used to read her stuff, Adele Davis, I think.
They open a new world for me. I mean, it's like it just clicked what her philosophy was, and it really worked. She said all.
Yeah, that name rings a bell.
Yeah, she sold millions of copies, and they're only $5. You can get them for $5 online. But basically, her thought is that all illness is stress related, And that just clicked with me. I thought, oh, you know,
Mm.
it just, once I got rid of all the stress, my health improved dramatically. But those are really two great books to read if anybody's searching for some good information on nutritional healing.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, did you have a good weekend? Today's Monday, right?
Monday, let's see, Saturday, Friday. I went crabbing. I had a good Friday. I turned my computer in, and they found a problem. They're fixing that cheaply, and then I went crabbing, caught a half dozen crabs. I don't know. I did a whole lot of things Friday.
What kind of crabs, Ken?
Blue crabs.
Blue crabs.
Yeah, initially went.
Well, that's I was raised down in Central Florida when I was younger.
Yeah.
So I grew up with lots of flora and fauna and animals and gators and stingrays and springs. We all swam at the springs. In Central Florida, it's very lush.
Oh, yeah.
So I know all about the crabbing, and we used to go to fishing off the pier,
Yeah, that's what I went there Friday morning, but I have never seen that water move as strong Friday morning as I ever have. I mean, the winds were so strong, I guess, from that storm. The water was actually moving northward along the beach. And so I just took a walk, had a cup of coffee, and I was going to go fishing. I thought, no sense fishing in this water. I'll just take the bait off. And nobody was catching nothing. So, but that was some strong water there Friday morning now. But I went inland.
Sure.
I went inland across the river, and I thought, well, I might as well stay down here and go crabbing instead of going back home. So that's when I always keep the crab pots and my crab nets in my car. And I caught a half dozen amongst what I believe were targeted people, about 4 kids and their parents and a grandparent, and they got their dolls spread out all over the little pier walk, and one girl singing Jingle Bells, and I thought, I know they're targeting her, So, but anyway, I got a half dozen crabs, and it turned out to be a decent morning.
Nice. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, that's good fun. Getting the nature stuff is always good to get out and do stuff like that.
Love nature.
I miss all that. That's something you don't get up here in New England. As you have to, you can. It's just 2 seasons out of the year, unless you snowboard or ski.
That's why I came here from North Carolina to the mountains. Everything was dead in the mountains. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I worked in the Park Service for years, and I mean, everything just was dying. And I thought, well, I'm going.
Oh no! So were you like a forest ranger kind of Park Services?
I was in maintenance. I took care of the campgrounds. Worked at a campground for 1 year, then I helped remodel rangers' houses for 3 or 4 years. I mean, I've been all over the Smoky Mountains and working in.
Oh, I bet you've seen some beautiful, beautiful parts of the country.
Yeah, but also seen where all the life was dying. I mean, all the
that's interesting. What do you mean by that? Can you be more specific? What do you mean?
Well, I mean the trees. There's always been a problem with the acid rain up there at the top of the Smokies with the ash trees dying.
That's sad.
But all the squirrels were gone. All the life was gone. When I left, I hadn't seen. I mean, the bees' nests were no longer there. The hornets' nest used to be high above in the trees. There were no squirrels evident. There was nothing.
Wow.
No bugs or nothing. I thought something is definitely wrong.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, I'm going
that sounds like the Adirondacks. My folks were born. Not too well. My mom wasn't born that. She was born in upstate New York, but not the Adirondacks. Both my parents came from a small town in the center of the Adirondacks, and they compare the Adirondacks when they visit now to back then, and the same thing. The lakes died, all the wildlife, the fishes. The acid rain just killed the Saranac Lake, Tupper Lake, and Lake Placid areas.
This wasn't natural. I mean, I went to a neighboring town.
Lake.
I went to a neighboring town. I lived right next to the reservation. My mother was Indian, so I went to a neighboring town about 17 miles away to get groceries. And I have never, ever seen so many dead squirrels on the road as I did that one Saturday morning. I mean, there was like
weird.
40 or 50. And I thought, I know.
Oh, that's odd.
Oh, well, the energy. It was the energy fields. They were doing something. And it was tragic to see all those dead squirrels on the road.
Oh, wow.
But here, there's egrets, there's the Canadian geese population seems to have been diminished now, but there's cormorants, there's the little sandpipers. I mean, it's good to kind of be back in an environment where there's animal life, wildlife now.
Oh, definitely. Best part of my childhood was down in when I was raised. We had these park passes to a state. Well, it became a state park, Dillon Springs, and we'd go swim, and whenever we could. It was so hot, and the springs were frigid. It was a ginormous. I forget how many millions of gallons of water comes out of that springs, and it forms the head of. I think it's the head of the St. Johns River. And it would be crisp cold. We'd run and jump in. We'd be sweating to death. And every time I hear somebody Southern, Ken, I hear your accent, I start slanting towards my Southern accent starts showing up. I was almost into junior high school when we moved north, and I showed up with a Southern accent, and boy, girls, I got tore up. Like, oh, there's not me and my Southern accent ain't what y'all doing, Oh, it's awful. But anyway, so I start hearing your accent, Ken, and I start going, hey, y'all.
Yeah. Well, I was born in Virginia, but I've always had that Southern twang, I guess. It's natural.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good twang. I just, it's funny how life happens.
Eating corn pones here tonight, and mustard greens, and some chicken probably just helped a little bit more.
Oh, that sounds good. Well, it's good to talk to you, Ken.
Yeah,
and anybody else? How are you guys doing out there? Let's see. We've got Silla's in the house, and Bobby, and Amy, and there's Reno. Hey, Reno, and I think I said Silla. I guess Canada is represented, and somebody from New York. So, and I think I said Amy. Let's see.
Good, thank you.
Good.
Silla.
Hi, Silla. Are you tired? It is Monday. Oh, yeah.
I've been falling asleep on the calls. Trying not to, but they wake me up so much at night. It's ridiculous. Gotta find some shielding. Have to, because they're just not going to stop. 3-4 times a night, creeps. And I have to get up and go to work.
It makes for such a long night.
Why don't you go beat up the jailbirds, the murderers and the rapists, and they're sleeping like babies, and here you are waking me up and all the rest of us decent people. You bunch of creeps.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you.
Then, to make it even worse, I got to get up at 4, and the creeps wake me up at 3:30. I'm like, you son of a bitch. You son of a bitch.
Yeah.
It's not funny, it's not, but...
No, I hear you loud and clear.
Myself, they record it all, but they can all go to hell, and they're all going to go to hell, too. I'm a little hoarse because I'm always yelling at them.
Yeah.
Then I'm working yesterday, and they got to go put my high blood pressure on from 10:30 to 2:30. I'm like, you son of a bitches, you just wait. I work at Amazon, so it's hard work. I'm not just sitting at it. But no matter what, it doesn't matter. They're not supposed to be here. This is non-consensual. Crime against humanity, and they shouldn't be doing this.
That's right.
There's nothing legal about this. I'm not under suspicion.
Right.
I'm not under probable cause with that scam Patriot Act. They can take that and stick it up their asses, everybody. Everybody knows it's a scam. The FBI always had jurisdiction. to surveil and intelligence if they needed to because of probable cause. This freaking Patriot Act is nothing but an invasion of the United States citizens' privacy.
Yeah, that's an understatement. That's all an understatement, Phil. I agree. Yep.
You take this brain experiment and go take it.
Harming our bodies, our minds, our soul, our whole soul, harming, our beliefs, the enjoyment of life, severing relationships, right?
Yeah, everybody. All mine are.
All mine are
Yep.
too.
Come between me and my kids, through V2K, not knowing what V2K was all those years. Hearing things repeated back, that V2K anchor. I call it canker anchor.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it, yeah.
Yeah.
A little luck with these dollar store mirrors. They got some that actually magnify. They magnify like anything that's in front of them. They're kind of like this curved shape. I thought, oh God, that's perfect. So I bought 3 of them. And here, like some of the people got those bright white lights, and they're awful. And I think the perps work off of them. So anyway, I put these mirrors out there. They're only $1, so maybe $2 actually. And I put them in the tree. I put them against that shine back at the lights, and it seems to have helped quite a bit. It's actually magnifying and sending it back. So that's my latest counter against this energy stuff.
Mirrors, huh?
Yeah, they're like a circular oval mirror that you get to brush your hair, look at yourself and brush your hair. I mean, they got a little loop to hang. You can hang it on a nail or something. I guess they're about 6 inches round. And they magnify things, and it's like perfect if you want to send something back. To where it was coming from, just hang that mirror. I actually painted the back side of it so, it'd be dark on my side. And the other side, I just left it and hung it on a nail toward some of that crazy light, some of that bad light. Seemed to have helped.
Interesting.
We should get some.
Oh, yeah, anytime they start something, I send it right. I figure they got to look at it on a computer, and if they're going to bother me, I'm going to bother them back. So I come up with stuff like that. Sometimes I'll take a mirror chip and point it up in the horizon and let it swing on a wind chime or something, Let them look back at whatever they're doing. And I think they get really frustrated and disgusted with what I'm doing sometimes. So, sometimes some simple things can really help like that. If you can just find something to send whatever they're doing back. It's hard, of course, it's hard to send like a EMF manipulation type deal back. But it's some of this other stuff, you can make up things to my latest thing is maybe getting one of the high-powered flashlights and letting them look at that for a while. Maybe I'll put it on a swinging cord upside down and let it, hang from a limb at night and just go in a circle from a tree, shining upwards. Whatever it takes, I just try to get some peace, And but some of those things end up working. It's like, let's get away from this guy. He keeps coming up with stuff, So that's how I address this stuff.
Well, yesterday when I was working, I packed stuff, in the bins, and then at Amazon, and then thereafter, there's pickers, and then of course packing things, everything up. But nevertheless, so I see everything, and there was a whole bunch of copper, so like in bags, like I don't know what it was, but anyway, so I took like 4 bags, and I swear to God, I got to buy some copper because I read about copper blocking this. I took about 4 bags. I don't know what the guy behind me thought I was doing, but I don't really care. And I put it right on top of my head, and I swear to God, it seemed like everything went away. Just like even half of it went away.
Yeah,
I could still feel a pulse in my foot though, so they were still with me. But it
I shield.
Like a lot of it went away.
Yeah, I do shield, Scylla. There are, you know about silver, right?
Yeah, I heard about silver.
You know about, huh?
Well, I have read about silver, but...
So there's fabrics. So I shield, I haven't shielded using the grounding pads in a long time. But I shield primarily with fabrics over my head, especially at night. And then I have a silver-coated fabric that I purchased off Amazon. As long as you get the washable one that's skin-safe, and the nickel and copper-plated fabrics as well. You have to get, like, again, they have to be skin-safe. And when you get them, I use only cold water. I don't even use a cleanser because, silver's antimicrobial. I'm really careful for the most part. But and they're a little pricey, but they work. They bust it up for sure. And it actually soothes my skin. I have like a really large piece that I have it wrapped around my head right now and around my throat, and it actually soothes me. And it doesn't, obviously nothing's ever going to stop this, but it certainly helps. And I won't live without it. I go through the whole day. I have some kind of silver on my head or around me. It's kind of similar to the feeling of water. When you get in water, somehow it just soothes your skin, the burning and it does something like that. Pardon me. I love it. And I really wish that there was a way to produce it, so I haven't seen anywhere in this country where they produce silver-coated nylon, but it's worth researching, and I wanted to research it, but it's just going to be too pricey,
Right. What about, I saw online, Lamb, L-A-M-B company, and they sell the EMF protection hats. They say that they wove or they weave silver through their fabric, but it's...
I find it pricey, and then you're limited to a garment if you know how to sew, or you can buy a piece and sew it yourself, because I purchased two tube-like hats from a place similar to that, and it was much thinner than the bolt, and I can just wrap for double the money. I got a ginormous piece that I can wrap any which way, and it looks like just like a silver scarf or shawl. Right. So I can get kind of creative with it, and that way I can layer it too, because the pieces I bought were too thin, and were limited. It was just literally a stretchy tube that you can put anywhere on your head, and I prefer just the large bolt of fabric is much better. So I don't know how it works. I forgot the word. It breaks it up. It breaks up some of the EMF, and
So you said you buy it at the fabric store?
Nope, I purchased it on Amazon.com.
Okay,
and,
so what is it called?
It's you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and look on my Amazon account right now. I'll pull it up, and I'll find the actual link to the piece the pieces that I've purchased in the past. It's so much easier to do that than for me to describe it. It's going to take me a second. So keep on. I'm going to just look for it.
But with those lamb hats with the silver woven in through the material, I thought metal wasn't supposed to touch our bodies.
It's okay if it's skin safe.
Oh.
Metal's
this is skin safe.
Where do you get the lamb wool?
It's not
with
lamb.
The silver.
The company's called Lamb. L-A-M-B. L-A-M-B.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. I don't know how much help it is, but...
Yeah, Lambs is L-A-M-B. They make garments, like shirts and... Yeah, Lambs with an S. Yeah, I think it is.
L-A-M-B-S. One or the other.
L-A-M-B-S, Lambs. Like the little sheep, like a baby sheep.
Yeah, it might
be.
And, yeah.
or without a nest? I don't remember now. Ken, what were you going to say about the metal?
Well, metals act as a good ground. I mean, I've been using a metal as a ground for years.
But I thought it couldn't touch us, though. That's what I was saying.
You thought it what? Well, if you need to know your metals. I mean, of course, copper is a conductor. I mean so it carries energy.
But
That's
don't
why
you
they
have
use
to have like cloth covering you first before you were to put like a copper hat on or something?
Well, see, I never. Again, copper conducts. It acts as a conduit for energy. I guess if you put some kind of a piece of steel or iron against the copper, then the energy would go into the iron, and the iron would act as a ground. But I have good luck with iron, such as a skillet. Of course, I've heard people say stainless steel is good, but of course, aluminum would be a conductor. That would not be so good. But then to contrast, I used a copper penny, 1984 and older, for years. I taped it to my body. I mean, it acted as a ground, provided just enough resistance, evidently, also to help me out. So, I mean, you just need to know your metals. You know, I have good luck with the ferrous metals that got some iron in them to act as a ground.
So if I ever could find copper, then I wouldn't necessarily have to say put a police hat on first or something. You could just put the copper right over you.
I mean, I've tried the copper. I mean, I've had I think I used some old copper guttering. I mean, they made guttering out of copper. I mean, I've tried it several times in the past, and it just it didn't do anything for me. It might have even made it worse. And of course, again, copper is conductive, so it wouldn't. It would just. I don't see. But then again, now I wear this copper bracelet. I made this up, but I put a piece of lead on it, and it helps me more than anything I've ever had. And I always carry one with me. I mean, if I'm in a place like a library where there's a lot of wireless, it doesn't bother me with this bracelet on. And all I've done is I've taken like a number 12 strand copper, solid copper wire, like is used in house wiring, made about 6 inches, fit around my wrist. Actually, it's not that thick, about 4 or 5 inches, whatever. And just took all the insulation off, like a ground wire, and then I threaded through a lead weight, and it actually looks kind of stylish. I made them up for a couple people, in fact, and sent them off, and they had good success with it. So
sounds good.
I think it does two things. I think it acts as a ground. I mean, the energy hits the skin and goes to the copper, and then it goes into that weight, and it dissipates. It's like a ground. And the other, I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, but it's been very beneficial to me. I made up 3 or 4 of them. I always keep them around me. It does something that instead of taping something to my stomach or something, I just put it around my wrist, and it looks pretty neat. It's very similar. They make those magnetic bracelets, and they look like they're out of copper. You've seen them, right?
Yes.
And then they have looks like a little drop of metal right there on the inner part of it. You know what I'm talking about? It looks like a little, that's the same principle that I've used, except I've made a bigger weight against the copper. So it really helps. I mean, it's no trouble to make one up.
Right.
They have the slip sinkers. Get you a slip sinker, just slip it on there, and it's actually pretty stylish looking. Works, helps.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Where did you buy your materials? At Home Depot or something?
You just go to the hardware store, anywhere that sells a little wire. I mean, you can probably find a piece of wire on the side of the road somewhere. Just number 12 strand solid wire that's used in house wiring. And
yeah, hardware stores have a lot of that stuff.
yeah, just skin it, take the insulation off, make it so it fits around your rest. I mean, it's flexible. You can just work it whatever way you want work that wire. But first, get you one of those slip sinkers, about 2 ounce. 2 ounce would be nice looking on a woman, and slip it on there, and just there you are. You're done, and just slip it around you. And I mean, I get a lot of relief with that. I mean, when things.
So do you put the lead? Do you put the lead on the outside of the copper?
There's sinkers that are slip sinkers. They got a hole in the middle. They're oval shaped. They're like round. They're like a round. They're more oval shaped. They're called egg sinkers. Come to think of it, I think they call them egg sinkers, and they got a hole in the middle. And all you do is just thread your copper wire through there and make you a little bracelet out of it and put it around your wrist. And I mean, it works for me. And it's worked for others, evidently, because I sent it off to them.
Those bracelets, I think they sell them at Walmart. A lot of times you see them. Those copper metal bracelets.
Yeah, I think they do, but mine seems to be much more. But I've had those in the past, and what I've made up is much more, I guess, attractive to the energy or something, or deadens it or something.
Okay, what's the Amazon product again? Did you post it?
I put it in chat. And it takes you to Amazon.
Is that going to be posted so that it's on there, on the Targeted Massachusetts? Is it going to be on there?
No, it's in only. It's in the chat here. If you don't have access to the chat online on the free conference call app, I can go ahead and look for it on Amazon again and put it on the Facebook. I don't know. Do you have a?
I don't have Facebook, and I'm on the phone, so I'm not on my computer.
Oh, okay. So I can just give you the name of it. How about that? Let's see.
Can you text it? Can you text it to me?
Oh, sure.
Okay. I want to do more grounding, because last week was a really bad week for me, and I just want to find different measures to help alleviate it because it was pretty powerful, and I'm just so sick of it.
Sorry to hear that.
I know. Yeah, me too.
How long have you been a TI that you know of, if you don't mind saying, please?
Oh, yeah, I've been a TI for probably over 40 years. Actually, when I was a child, I was getting bugged by the CIA. They were tapping our phones and stuff. So I've been a target for a really, really long time. But the energy weapons and all that stuff started getting really bad when I was in Nevada because there's a lot of crazy people in Nevada, and I had to leave because it was, and now I'm in Arizona, so it's I've been alleviated of some of it. But, when I was at my last job, I was getting hit in the head really hard, and I couldn't even think straight at work. And so I just want to find, because today I've had a good day. This morning was bad, but I've had a good rest of the day where they let up. I don't know why, but it just somehow dissipated, and I've had, a lot of peace today, which is unusual, but I still want to do whatever I can to make it easier for me to cope with it, Yeah.
Try that bracelet I recommended. It'll get you through it.
Okay, I'm going to do that one too.
May I ask you, when you say go ahead, Ken.
I'll send you one if you want to. I'll put one in the mail. I'll make you one up and send you one if you can't figure it out. It's pretty simple, but I don't mind doing that.
Oh, okay. You can send it to me in the mail?
Yeah, I'll make you up one and send it to you. I've done it for like 4 or 5 victims.
How much do you want for it?
Oh, I don't. You got to send me nothing. I don't. It don't cost me $1.50 for a sink or a piece of wire. Just give me.
You want my address?
Yeah, give me a mail and address, and hold on, let me find it.
Do you have a pen?
I'm working on it.
Okay, let me know.
When you
okay, I'm ready. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Give him your address, please.
Oh, okay. It's 15107 West Via, as in Victor, VIA, Montoya, MONTOYA.
Okay.
And I'm in Sun City West, Arizona.
Say that again. That last. What is it? Sun City.
Sun City West.
Okay, got it.
Arizona, 85375.
Okay, I got it. What do you want me to put? Some kind of a last name or resident or what?
Yeah, Williams, Dana Williams.
That's enough. All right. Yeah, I'll make you one up. Get it off in the mail tomorrow.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'll be happy to give you some money if you want.
It's like about $3 postage, and that's. Don't worry about it. I'm not worried about $3 or $4.
Oh, thank you.
Dana, when you say they hit you in the head, do you have like bad headaches, or you really just keep?
Well, it felt like when what happened is I started working for an attorney, and I worked with these 2 other girls. They didn't want me there from the beginning, and first they started with the verbal harassment, that I shouldn't be making the money I'm making there, and stuff like that. And it escalated. Like, they were just trying to push me out the first week that I was there. I know. Well, my boss wanted me there. My boss is a really good guy, and this is what's terrible is that he was walking outside and fell and burned his bottom and his back on the pavement because it was 118 degrees out, and he had to go get debridement, so he was in the hospital. So the whole time he was in the hospital, they were giving me, a bunch of shit, and I knew they didn't want me there, and my boss really couldn't defend me, because he was in the hospital. And then, they started messing with my computer. Like, nothing would work. The printer didn't work. The computer didn't work. And then I was getting severe pressure, like somebody was shooting me in the head, in the center of my forehead. And then it got to where I couldn't even think straight. And then they started changing my documents. Like, somebody was in there altering what I did, so it made me look stupid, and I would print it, and it would be all screwed up. And then they would get mad at me and say, why'd you do that? And I was like, wait a minute, that's not how I did it, It was not like that. And then I got pissed because, they didn't want me there. And so I was there 5 months, and I learned a lot, but they would talk down to me like I'm a stupid little idiot, and I have 2 degrees, and I worked in the legal profession for almost 6 years, and so it just was really bizarre. But I knew that whoever was doing it, it's just the same people that have always been attacking me, and they didn't want me to have a job,
Well, it's because it's the perpetrators. They get a hold of everywhere we go and every job, and they tell everybody, and they just destroy our lives.
Yeah, and then to make it worse, like,
people go along with it.
Yeah. And to make it worse, they're both microchipped. Both of the girls have freaking microchips in them, and I've already explained all that before. But they're into it. They're probably gonna go along with the global governance and be microchipped, and so they can eat.
Hi, can I get in here for just 1 second, please?
Yeah.
is Lily here?
Hi, Constance.
Lily, I need the biggest favor from you, okay?
From me? Sure. What can I do?
Do you have a pencil and a piece of paper?
I do, yes, ma'am.
Are you ready to write something down?
Almost.
I have been talking about you to my one friend here in Phoenix. He has his own conference call for the last 6 months. He wants you to call the conference call on Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
He wants the privilege of talking to you because I have nothing but good to say about you. But the number
Constance.
Yes. The number is, let me get it together. It got me on short time. Come on. Okay. 605 313 5111, and the ID number is 641496. Okay, the call here starts at 3:30. I don't know if you guys have done the fallback, so it's got 2 hours, so that'll be 5:30 your time if you're,
Yeah, I'm East Coast. So if you are in Arizona, you are Central Time or
Mountain
3 hours,
time,
right?
I think. Because I don't know what time it is here.
Mountain Time or Central?
I don't know.
3 hours.
Well, do this. What time is it right now, Constance? What time do you have?
I don't know.
I can tell you it's 6:49 here right now.
3 hours.
Okay, so there's 3 hours difference where you are, Constance.
Okay, but did they do the time change yesterday to fall back 2 hours?
Yeah, right now it's 9:51 where I'm at.
Okay, so that means if it's 9:51 where you are, it's pretty close to 10, 9, 8. It's probably 8 something here.
7.
Yeah, 7. 7, right?
Yeah, you might have to. But the call
Almost
starts
8.
at 3:30, and he wants to hear everything I've said so much about you.
Oh, well, that's so sweet. I'm sure. And what's his name, Constance?
His name is John. We
okay.
are a part of the group here in Phoenix. It's called the Phoenix TI Group. It's been going on now for going on 2 years. And he has his own conference call. I just do the support groups. And then we have a couple other people that do other functions concerning the group. But he wants to talk to you. And I told him that I would try to get Justice. I know she'll be on Monday. So there you go. And if any of you want to come to a afternoon conference call that comes on before Frank's, you're welcome to get the number. I'm going to give it to you again. You're welcome to. It's a really good call. 605-313-5111. ID number 641496 and pound. Okay.
Via the computer, what's the name? Like
his
Frank's
name is
target.
John.
What is his? John?
Yes.
Well, thank you for that, Constance. And yeah, I can listen in. I'm thinking it's going to be 3 hours.
You're just going to blow him away because I've been talking about you forever.
I don't know what you're saying. Girl, what are you saying?
I was like, I got to get Lily over here. I got to get Lily. But I always forget, to do it. But, okay.
Well, thank you for that. It's good to hear from you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, Constance, can you give me that number again? I had to go get a pen.
Yes, I can. It is 605-313-5111, and the ID number is 641496 pound. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. And it starts at 3:30 our time, Arizona time. I can't do that. I don't have any way to tell time right now. Okay, so I am going to mute and listen to you guys. Okay. Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, some of you folks have been targets for a very long time, and I'm almost embarrassed to say that I didn't understand what was happening to me for the whole of 25 years until somebody suggested to me, have you ever heard of targeted individuals? And I said no, and she had been researching it for herself. She died of natural causes. It was almost a year ago now, and she was a big support for me. She had found out about the targeted community, I think, 2 years prior to me. So, and I was just learning about it enough to the point, and then she died. I would have loved to share all my findings with her that I've learned this year, but I was exploring it for her because she was in ill health, and she was probably in ill health because she was probably targeted her whole adult life from the things she described to me in comparison of what I knew now. So I never quite understood that these were directed energy weapons. I didn't know how these things were happening. I never knew where to look to do research to understand it because it was coming from within some of the time with V2K. I just couldn't wrap my head around it, to be honest. And it's almost embarrassing, but I also, in combination with all of these assaults over the years and harassment and gang stalking, whatever, the whole gamut, I also had naturally occurring difficulties too. Some of it because of that, some of it not. And so I never could catch a breather long enough to try to, be objective and realize I was a guinea pig for a governmental neuroweapon system development, And so now that I discovered it, now I'm into the grind of trying to I'm really gutturally looking at my losses, if you will. Or it's not that I'm feeling sorry for me, but I kind of dove into the community to figure out who it is, what it's about, why is it happening, how they're doing it. And then all of a sudden I find myself knee-deep in grief, and it's really blowing me away, because I'm looking at the damages now, and I'm finally able to look at the damage and go, wow, this really sucks, Not just the torture and the pain and suffering and the fetal position stuff, but really I'm trying to get over the hump of the trauma and the initial shock, if you will. And I'm just wondering if anybody out there, how long you've had to heal from the time you had long-term suffering, torture, confusion, perplexed, whatever, to the point where you discover what it is, the community, and then how did you start to heal? Because it's not like I'm coming to these groups and I can sort of talk about it, and there's just so many. How do I just talk about 25 years of the things they've done? That's just 25 every day of whatever.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if there's the transition.
All I can say is that for me, it's been like getting hit and then falling down and then getting up, repeatedly. And then the only thing that has helped me, honestly, is prayer. The only thing that's given me strength is through prayer. And I noticed that when I pray, and I've actually fasted and prayed over it about this topic because, we're defenseless. We don't have anything to fire back at them. We're taking the hits, and we have nothing to defend ourselves with. So the only thing that has helped me is to pray and to ask God to give me power, to recover, because I'll have periods where I recover, I'm feeling fine, my mind is clear, everything is going fine, and then here they come again. Yeah. And so it's a repeated petition on my part daily almost to just say, God, give me the strength. And, you know, I've even gone as far as praying for their destruction, you know, because they're trying to destroy me, and I don't want them destroying my life. I want them to be destroyed now because I've been patient long enough for them to stop what they're doing, you know?
Yep. Yeah, one of my favorite, there's a scripture that says, carry on in righteousness and persevere in prayer. And I tell myself that all the time, you know. I'm just, yeah. So thank you for that. It's so true. It's so true. The praying, and I understand the anger too, and hoping that God intervenes, right?
Yeah, because when you pray for your own defense too, it actually hurts them. I don't know if anybody's experienced this, but like one time I was in a lot of prayer and I was fasting over this, you know, problem, and I don't know what it is I'm hearing exactly, but I'll hear people yelling and screaming and going, ah, like that, you know, and I said, okay, what's that? Is that because they're getting it, you know, something's happening to them because of what they're doing to me? Or I don't know what all those screams are, but I can hear, you know, like, you know, the voice to skull or whatever I'm hearing, like the reverberation of my enemies, my attackers, if something's happening to them or what. But it's really bizarre.
Huh. Huh.
I don't know if my prayers are working and something's happening to them, or it's stopping, or maybe their mechanisms are breaking. I don't know what it is.
Or they're making you feel or think that's happening. Like, you know.
It could be anything because they're so manipulative. You don't know, really, because you're not there. You can't see really what's happening.
Right. Do you think that you've been a target because of your faith? Who?
I think it's that, and I think it's my dad, because my dad was a soldier during World War II, and I think that my dad was a target because of the paperclip Nazis coming over here. I think that they knew that I was the daughter of a World War II hero in the Third Army, and so that automatically made me a target, you know, as a child. I think it's both. The fact that I believe in Christ, and you know, I am a daughter of a World War II soldier, and when my dad was alive, you know, he passed away, but he used to tell me all the time, he said, they're going to do it again, okay? So in your lifetime, you're going to see the Nazis come back up, but they might be called a different name, but it's the same animal, same beast is going to happen again in your lifetime. And he gave me advice, you know, and he just wanted to make sure that I realized that it hasn't gone away, that they're not, you know, destroyed completely. You know, we destroyed them in Germany and in Europe, but we have not ever gotten rid of them. They're still going to crop up like a weed, you know.
Yeah, it's so interesting because living in this country, we were always taught to fear communists or, you know, the communist movement. You never really think about the Nazis, you know, and then you find out now that the Nazis, you know, infiltrated this country on many levels, and you know, their perverse philosophies, you know, along with technology, infiltrated, which is mind blowing.
Yeah, and the sick part is that my mom's sister, who's younger than my mom, was a Nazi supporter of all things. And when I was a little girl and we went to visit them for vacation, my aunt came up to me and she said, "You're not going to have a very good life, Dana." I said, "What?" And I'm just a little kid. "You're not going to have a very good life, and I'm sorry, but you cannot have a good life, and you probably won't live very long." That's what she said to me. And my mom and dad never knew that she said that because my mom and dad weren't around, and I was in shock. That was like one of the most mentally traumatic things that family did to me, and they did some stuff to my brother too. My brother's 2 years older than me, and they did some really heinous stuff to my brother right in front of me. And so I don't ever speak to them. I don't have any affiliation with them. And my aunt's husband was a banker and connected to the Bilderbergs, of all things, the international bank. Yeah, so they're very dangerous-minded, you know.
You got any Indian blood in your family?
What's that?
You got any Indian blood in your family?
No, my family is English, Welsh, and Swedish. My mom was 100% Swedish. But, you know, I come from my dad. He was a warrior. He was a hero. And so I'm a fighter because of my dad. And he did say to me, you know, because you're my daughter, you're going to be hated when you get older. People are going to hate you because you're my daughter. And I said, what do you mean? Because, you know, when you're a child and you hear that kind of thing, you just, you know, I've processed everything that I've gone through, and I actually had suppressed memories from amnesia, but I've recalled everything that has happened in my lifetime, and it was very hard process to recall and have my memories come back. But, you know, a lot of times when I had trauma or any kind of a violent thing happen to me, because my uncle tried to choke me to death and suffocate me.
What?
And my mom, yeah, he's a Freemason, you know, the whole family's Freemason, but he tried to choke me to death, and I was okay. I actually didn't suffer and have to go to the hospital with it, but it was really one of the most traumatic things that happened to me, and I forgot about it. So when I got older, I started to recall that incident, and I was like, oh my God. And so, you know, these guys they don't care. They don't care what they're doing to people. They have to do it. Their rationale is they have to do it. It's part of their program or part of their belief that it is the right thing to do, which is insane.
May attribute that to our DNA strand, though. You know, a lot of us feel like, you know, our family through the generations were targeted, and that's why we're targeted. And that's the case with me. Your story is very, very similar to mine because I'm a Lee, and there were a lot of military people in the Lee line in the Revolutionary time, like Harry Lee and, of course, Robert Lee. So I think there's a commonality there they look for, you know, and they're trying to stifle them kind of people who want to, you know, are going to be leaders and fighters, and evidently try to target them.
Yeah.
But my mother was Cherokee. She was born on the reservation. I know she was targeted, so I got a feeling that's a big part of why I was targeted too, because of my Cherokee heritage and of course my Lee heritage.
Yeah, everybody's beneath them except them, you know. That's how they think. Everybody is low life compared to them, you know, is the way they treated me and my brother. And, you know, thankfully my brother has done excellent in his life, and he has a family and he has a normal life, but you know, part of their brainwashing or their SRA abuse was they would tell my brother when he was 8 years old, you'll never amount to anything, and you'll be poor, and you'll have no shoes on your feet, and things like that. They tell you things like that, like you're nothing.
Yeah, I get stuff like that even now.
Well, people like that are definitely deficient in something, you know.
They're insane.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I have so many stories that if I wrote it, people would just be wanting me to shut up because it's so disgusting what they did. And like one thing my aunt did to me that I recalled later is we were having a picnic, and she stuck a pill in my food. Like, I don't know what was in it, if there was cyanide in it, but I found the pill and I didn't swallow it, but I uncovered it. It was inside of a macaroni salad, and if I would have taken a bite and eaten the pill, I don't know what would have been in it that would have killed me. But they like to poison people too, you know.
Yeah.
That's their modus operandi, is poisoning people.
When you say they, you think that this is a group, the same group that's doing all of these things to us?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they have the same philosophy or non-philosophy, you know.
Because the people who are doing this to me have within their possession the greatest weapons, you know, of mass destruction ever known to man in their possession. So
right.
this level of sophisticated neural weapon systems are not available to just anybody, you know.
Right.
And there's a lot of people within the NSA and the CIA and the FBI that would probably like to know who these people are too, that they don't even know who they are. I believe that.
I agree.
I don't necessarily believe this is not common knowledge. These programs are buried and hidden above the president, I believe, way above the highest clearances you can find in this country. And there's a.
But they found a way to piggyback off all those.
But what I was curious about was the thinking behind the programs, because some of it is obviously very sadistic, and the people pulling off what they've managed to pull off that I know is mathematically impossible. You know, the things that they've managed to be able to do are just.
Well, I realize that even though they are bankers or they're wealthy, they're millionaires by default because the dad died and left the money to my uncle. But I realize that because they belong to the Freemason Society, that their connections went and stemmed to the International Banking Society and the CIA, because what happened is, you know, my phones were being tapped, and then there was a crime that happened in Reno, and a girl was murdered, and so the cops called me and said, "We want to talk to you because your phone number was in her phone. How do you know her?" I said, "Well, she worked with me." So what happened is I said, "You know, someone's tapping my lines, and if you want me to talk to you about her, I need you to clean my lines." And he goes, "Okay." So the cops cleaned my lines and came back and told me they know where the tap was coming from. And I said, "Where's it coming from?" And they said, "Indiana." "Who do you know in Indiana?" I said, "Nobody." And so they investigated further because it actually opened up another investigation. And they figured out the taps were connected to Nevada and Indiana and Illinois. Well, my aunt lives in Illinois. So, it was just a whole big thing that happened. And so the cops, you know, we went over all this discussion about this girl that I work with because I was a waitress and she was a waitress. Well, she was murdered. And so they just wanted to know what I knew about her. So they questioned me and everything. And so all of that stuff came out. But, you know, their connections don't just end as, "Oh, we want to kill you." No, they're connected to a society that already puts a target on your head. And if you're not one of them, then you are a target. You know what I mean? That's
right.
how it works.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's all just so disturbing.
Hi, my name is Kimberly, and this is my first time in this meeting, but I'm really enjoying it, so thank you.
Oh, hi, Kim. Well, welcome. My name is Lily, and I have been running just this particular call. I think this is my third or fourth time. I'm not keeping track. So I'm kind of new at moderating for Frank. Frank Allen runs he runs Targeted Massachusetts, and he sponsors the Monday, Wednesday, Friday calls. So I'm doing the Monday one. So welcome.
Good, thank you. So there is more during the week?
Yep. If you go to, there's actually a schedule of all the calls located. I think it's the PACTS International website. PACS International has a calendar on there of all the calls during the week. And there might be one somewhere else, too. I just don't know it right off the top of my head.
Frank has info on that also.
Yes, Frank does. Targeted Massachusetts, but I think he only lists his. But you'll find the three of Frank's, yes, thank you for that, Ken, on targetedmassachusetts.com as well.
Okay, great. I participate in John's. I don't know if you know him, John Gonzalez, but he has one on Wednesday nights. I'm in Texas, but I think he's in Phoenix, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah, Constance was just talking about that call.
Okay, was that the same one? Yeah, I've heard Constance on there before, too. She's sweet.
Yes, and she was just discussing that John has a call in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So,
there's some information that I don't know if anybody keeps up on the Indian affairs. I do because, Indians were picked to be victims of the MK Ultra program, along with unwitting people. So it's important to me to keep up on it because a lot of Native Americans were indeed chosen to be under this program. But anyway, Trump just signed some legislation about a week or two ago. It's called the Savannah Act, and I'm just trying to figure out, what's behind it. There's always something behind whatever they do, and it's an act to where the government is going to help the reservations find murdered or missing Indians, and evidently there's a big rise in those who are dying or missing. So that's interesting. I mean, they're going to provide a lot of money, for programs to go out and find, why they're dying, who's dying and missing, and help the tribes, get some relief from whatever's going on.
That's
but anyway,
good.
It made me wonder, it made me wonder if they were targeted and they lost them or something. I'm always looking at this targeting aspect of anything the government does anymore because it's usually relative. So I hope it isn't, but I did think it. It was kind of interesting to read about that Savannah's Act and how the government was. They appropriated a lot of money for it. It's like billions of dollars, to send it to the tribes.
Oh wow.
Anyway, I'm just sharing that as information. I don't know how relative it is, but normally the tribes have sovereignty over their own reservation. I mean, they're the ones who really normally, or at least the Cherokees did, they were the ones who determined whether to let the FBI in on a case or not. So that was another concern after I read it. I've never known the federal government just to be able to walk in a sovereign nation and just start investigating any type of murder. Usually they have to be invited. So there may be some relevancy there, in the targeting, because Indians have indeed been, targeted in the past.
Mm-hmm. How long have y'all been participating in this meeting?
Well, I'm not sure. This call is fairly new. There's several others. There's a much larger one run by PACS on a Monday night, and I think the sentiment was, or the feeling was that somebody wanted a smaller one too, so people could have just a smaller group.
Conference calls started around 2005 for the victims.
Yes,
Oh,
that's
wow.
that. Yeah.
As a means of getting
Wow.
together and trying to figure out what was going on, who was bothering them, and so on and so forth.
Right.
Yeah,
And
but it's
you
all
said that was
mine.
in 84?
What's that, Kim?
You said that was in 84?
I think he said 2005.
2005 or so.
Oh, 2005. Okay.
I wish it would have
I know
been
mine started
1984.
about- Yeah.
It would have saved me a lot of trouble if they had started in 1984.
Mine started in 2003, so I've been dealing with it a while.
What did you first notice, Kim?
When I first noticed was, I would say it would have had to have been about the 2008 to 2009 area.
Uh-huh.
I started hearing the voices first. That was the stalking and the voice-to-skull technology is what started first.
Yeah.
And I had never experienced anything like this. And the
Right.
more I got, well, I guess the sad thing that happened was I think I was removed from my family because I lived in Galveston County, and there was a real tragic event that had happened at the time. But now, looking back at everything, I see that it was probably a way to get me isolated and get me away from the area. And so the real targeting, the most intense targeting has taken place probably over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
I've just recently been able to get, a matter of fact, I had an appointment with my doctor today, and they have found that there is actual tearing in my pelvic wall, which is an excruciating pain because of a wireless body area network that they have illegally installed. And so I'm trying to get the proper treatment and care for it, but it's so hard to do that, Nobody believes you. It's very hard to get proper medical care.
Yes, I agree. And I've heard that a lot from various people. And I have experienced that too, as well. So getting proper medical care, or at least difficulties. There's always a difficulty, I call them antagonists. There's always an antagonist to something,
Constantly.
Yeah. And so it's really a bizarre situation, I'm sorry, I'm having a moment where I'm having not an epiphany, but a realization of something. My brain I've been in target for a very, very long time and under mind control for a long time. And, they try and I fight it, just the harassment and the tearing, just trying to tear apart, of my life and my beliefs and my attachments, to make me suffer. And, I've been, perusing different articles and reading, and I do a lot of prayer, like I was telling Dana, and thinking. And, I wonder, I've read a blurb where a CIA insider, formerly, no longer, but used to be, worked for the CIA on projects and whatnot, had mentioned that there's a lot of curiosity and interest by the CIA and various agencies in the occults. But it just smacks of my experience where, for the longest time I tried to think, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? And I wonder now if they think that there's something wrong with you, so they do this to you. And they think that there's something spiritually wrong with you or something.
I think it's absolutely a form of spiritual warfare, from what I've experienced.
It is, yeah.
Has anybody? I'm sorry. I was just wondering if has anybody tried to go to the FBI to report any of it?
I have, but I've been prevented from doing it because they screen my calls. They block my emails. They block my texts. It's just. I tried to contact them years ago, but it's very hard to get in touch with them. Unless I guess you could physically go down there. But.
Yeah, it's just such a strange, messed up situation, for all these years. It just really is mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing the lengths that people will go to experiment, to philosophize, philosophies or theorize, to poke, to prod, test.
Yeah, if I hadn't experienced it, I would have never believed it.
No, and you can't. How do you explain it to people? And I was talking with somebody, and they're like, your family members, or people, your relationships are broken up. People in your circles because, targeted individuals always want to talk about it. And I'm like, that's so not true. I've never talked about this to anybody in my family until this past year, and I've been a target for 25 years. I've lived with this alone, knowing I wasn't organically crazy, thinking I might be a little like whacked, but, not like schizophrenic crazy, and or crazy on really any level, and never spoke to anybody about it. And I promise you, they dug into the psyche of my children and my siblings, because they would reflect back to me conversations. They would use those, words that you just were thinking about, or subject matter would come up, and they would do it in a way they would mutate their voice in my head, so I heard different words, and
yes.
they would provoke my ex to be abusive, very abusive. Like, he went from kind of normal, at first, to after the birth of our second child, he went off the deep end, like hair remover in my shampoo kind of deep end, and tried to kill us. And he'd wake up for no reason. He'd wake up swearing at me, calling me names, when I never did anything to him to provoke anything on that level. And, I just thought it was so odd. It was the oddest behavior. My children are so strongly fighting me all the time. Even now, they're good guys, okay? Don't get me wrong, and they don't do it with anybody else but me. And I used to think, this is just, they have high expectations of me or something. They're really hard on me, okay? For example, and I just don't think it's normal behavior. The when the saying punishment fits the crime, okay? It's kind of like their behavior never warranted the issue. It was always over the top, or and it's not just my kids and my ex, it's other family members too. I didn't talk to some family members for 5 years, and I'm one of 5 kids. So because I just got to the point where I just felt so demoralized and dead, basically, like I didn't want to, it's so interesting because I've read where they just they want to learn how to control the individual mind, the creative thinkers and the people who want to make a difference, or who have great ideas, or who are super creative and march to the beat of their own drum, and who don't really don't care what the popular opinion says, or don't cave into peer pressures. They want those kinds of personalities. I've read a lot about that too, and I had a point, it just escaped me, but you know what I mean. They want to take those people and experiment on them for free will, so that they can learn how to control the free will of the free thinkers. You know what I mean? And I think once they learn how to control the free will of the tough people, then it's going to be much easier, or all the personalities actually, then it's going to be easier to mind control everybody. And my response to that is, they'll never control free will with this technology. I don't care who they are. They're going to influence it, but they're not going to control free will. And the only thing that they're going to do is discourage the individual and torture the individual where they lose their will to want to live. And it's not suicide, but it wrecks the joy and the spontaneity or all of the happy, bright moments in life, all the good stuff.
Yeah, you lose all your enthusiasm,
Yeah.
No more enthusiasm.
I'm like, womp, womp, womp. It's always like this big discouragement. And if it wasn't for my faith, that would always reflect I would dig and search and reach for answers, spiritually speaking. And I'd get answers, eventually. And it was good. I was satisfied some of the time. Like, okay, but not about what the whole problem was, but just I'd get enough encouragement spiritually to keep going, to pick myself back up. And then eventually I just couldn't pick myself back up anymore. And only recently, after finding the program, was I able to at least start trying again. So that's only been since 2019, mid-2019 too. So it's been just about a little over a year being aware. So that's that's been my experience, and it's just not easy, and accepting it all too.
No, and they use my kids' voices. I know they've emulated their voices. They used my dad's voice, too, and he was in the service. And I think this has a lot to do with the industrial military complex from what I've looked into. And some of the things that they threaten me, on a daily basis, because I'm full V2K, and that's been going on since at least 2008 with me. But I know that they use the leverage that they feel like they get the most emotion out of you. And with me, it's my kids are telling me they're going to harm my children or, torment me in a painful way, because then it's like I heard somebody earlier talking about how they kind of can't think properly. And you get that way, You get to a point where you get like brain fog sometimes, the targeting and the frequencies are so strong that I have to just pray about it and try and stay as focused as I can. But it's a struggle every day.
It certainly is, So I'm trying to, and I hear you. Trying to find the strength to just say, okay, now that I understand it, you can kind of laugh at the fact that this is all fiction and it's oppositional fiction for a purpose, and they're meeting their motive and whatever they're trying to accomplish. And it's almost laughable at times, for sure. It's such a joke in its own way because, it's the philosophies behind it are so misconstrued and ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it certainly does smack of calling and praying for God to come. Just think of like Pharaoh when God smited Egypt, or Pharaoh, with the 10 plagues. You're hoping something like that.
You do, It's like tonight I was using the bathroom and they said, we're going to come over there and shoot you between the eyes, Kim. And I said, come on, let's do it, If you have the right side of this, the Lord and salvation, you get to a point where I would never kill myself. But when they threaten it, it's like, go ahead. You've been doing it for years.
Yeah. Threats. Yeah. So dumb. It's so stupid. It is. It's just so stupid. My gosh.
I used to get phone calls from my cousin on a repeated basis when I was younger, and he would call and say, I'm going to kill you, Dana, and stuff. So the whole thing with my cousin, my aunt's son, he's nuts.
Wow.
And he actually has a rape felony on his record. He raped a girl, and that's one of the things they like to do is rape people, and they like to threaten and torture their sadists. You know, that's their way. That's what they think is. They're all brainwashed into thinking that when they treat innocent people like that, that they're somehow powerful or great, you know. And so he stopped calling my house after a while, and I was surprised, you know, but he was always saying he was going to kill me. So it's all transcended over to this network. It's a huge network, and I know my name has been on their list, and it's been a ton of people, like unbelievable, because when I lived in Nevada, I would have people following me around that I didn't even know. And I'd say, who are those now? Okay, those people must know my aunt and uncle, you know, and they're being told to do this to me. And so I had to, like, get in a few people's faces, and one guy, he was following me to the restaurant and bothering me, and I turned around and I called him a fucking pig, and he better lay off and get away from me, you know, because I finally got so sick of it, you know. And then a couple times they almost entrapped me to put me in jail, and thankfully I have friends with the National Guard, and the guys that were surveilling me with the police department on that other matter, they actually caught the guy that was going to entrap me and confronted him and said, you know, we have Dana on private surveillance, and Dana was nowhere near her phone, because what happened is my other boss is a Freemason. There's so many of them. And he was going to try to prosecute me for stealing. And thankfully, I wasn't anywhere near the phone or the credit card of the company that I worked for. I managed to last there almost 6 years as a legal assistant, and they told me that he was going to try to bring up charges against me for theft. And I'm like, what? So I ended up leaving there because I'm like, I can't work for somebody like that. And they confronted him, and you should have seen the look on his face when he came in the office the next day, because he looked like he had the shit scared out of him, because he didn't know I had friends with the National Guard, and he didn't know I had friends with the police department in Reno. And it looked like he was going to freak out right in front of me, because they confronted him and said, we have Dana on private surveillance, and she was nowhere near, and you cannot bring charges against her for these things. So everything, all the timing was just perfect, how all of it transpired, that it protected me from going to jail for something I didn't do, you know. But so I'm fortunate because I've had some powerful friends in my corner that have helped me out, you know, and so my dad was military, so I have friends in the military, and, you know, I have friends from when I lived in California that are actually part of a team that's working on targeting, you know, but there's nothing like, you know, concrete, like widespread that they're doing right now. I think what they're doing is, you know, the military is working on the targeted individuals in as much as they can right now because of all of what's going on internationally with China and everything. But I know that they are doing their best, you know, those of them that are assigned and stuff like that. So I feel hopeful for that one aspect, but I know that they can't address all of it yet. But it's probably coming in the future, you know, where they'll be letting go of us. They'll be fighting different battles, and they'll be confronted by other, I guess, conflicts. You know what I mean? Like they'll probably have to deal with, well, I know one thing, and like my brother's friend worked for the Secret Service in the Obama administration, and he used to live kind of close to me, and him and I had some long conversations about what was going on in the United States, and he divulged to me that he said, just wait till Trump gets in because they're killing people in the underground that are doing sex trafficking, human trafficking, and abducting people's children and taking them into the underground. And they're doing sweeps in the underground, and so hopefully they'll be doing sweeps on a more broad scale to get rid of these people in the fusion centers or wherever these people are located, whether they're military or
Is
not.
that true?
No, it's true. Trump,
like,
Trump,
how come we don't hear about that stuff? Like, you mean with the Epstein groups and stuff?
Yeah, because what they're doing is so what's the word? It's so high intense. It's so intense and it's so stressful. The underground and the corrupt cabals, because there's different factions of them. It's not like it's all one cell. It's just so many domestic terrorist cell groups that have been, doing human trafficking. Like, for instance, one time I went on to Wayfair. This was when I was in college online, and I pulled up Wayfair to look up for a cabinet, and the cabinet was $10,000. And then I was like, no, there's something wrong with that picture. $10,000 for that cabinet? So guess what? It turned out, and it was on the news, that was human trafficking, that they were selling cabinets as a guise to do slave trading, basically. And they were selling people for $10,000 a pop, So what my friend that lived up the way from me, who worked for the Secret Service, he told me, he said, they're going down and doing sweeps, and they're finding children. And there was just something on the news the other day. They found 10 children that were locked up in the underground. There were like jails down there. They put kids in little jail cells, and they released those 10 children. They're not going to report on it because it's all covert. It's all black ops,
sure.
covert.
Oh, sure,
super dangerous. And so, I'm not trying to sway anybody to vote for Trump, but I voted for Trump, and I know that he is so against all of it, and he is pro-America. He's not pro-globalism. So he's doing really great in many ways, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I understand the covert part of that. Yes, I could see why it would certainly be covert actions on the part. I just didn't realize that was happening because you don't, the fact that you heard about it from, it sounded like you said an agent of some type. Then, wow. And the other thing too is that, when you isolate and you don't dig around for the seedy, dark sides of things, I've never kept up with any of it because I was so isolated and was always so busy trying to just survive. I just never looked into too much of that part of things because it just seems like it's so above your, everything, even though I was living this life. It's such a weird situation, but I hope they whoever they are, I think that it's just there's so many different branches to these programs, the compartmentalizations of them all, and the different groups have.
I think that Congress is really going to be held responsible for all of this. It may not be that they go to trial on it, but I can tell you with all of the funding that goes to the MIC, all the contracts, and through the CIA and the CFR, which is a huge octopus apparatus that, they talk about the Matrix. You hear about the Matrix all the time. Well, the Matrix is real, and this is all because of the funding that Congress approved. And that's why, I said this on another call, is that they are going to be held accountable for all of this bullshit in the end, okay? If it doesn't happen in our lifetime where they are put on trial for all this, because this is treasonous, because they are allocating billions, okay, to the MIC, and the MIC is contracting with the CIA. All of these programs are CIA based, and they are the ones that are going to be going to hell for all of it. Trust me. If they don't get, put on trial during our lifetime.
Yeah, I think, see, for me, it's so hard to say because I don't think they know. First of all, they're approving the funding, especially the military's requested like however many more billions of dollars in their budget. And
they
whoever
know.
gives approval.
They know that Black Ops, they know exactly what's going on with Black Ops and CIA projects.
Yeah.
All of it, okay? Who is it? Somebody just mentioned one of the programs, MK Ultra. Okay, that's just one of many. That's just like a small thing. And the MK Ultra program was vast. And there were so many operatives that were participating in these programs. Just think of it. If there's just that one, which was very expansive, just think about the other ones that they had and they have on their plate. The Phoenix operation is one of the biggest, and that was during the Bush administration, okay? And they are psychopaths. Okay, total psychopaths. They don't care about us at all, trust me.
Oh, boy.
They are here to destroy, and they want to take over the world. They want global governance, and that is their ideology. That is what they hold fast to. They're not going to be sorry until God comes back and judges them, unless we have, enough good men in the military to deal with these assholes, nothing is going to happen to change it. Trust me. We have to have, the military support in going down there and taking care of business. Because they won't stop. They have to be stopped, just like the Nazis had to be stopped. And the only thing that stopped them is kicking their ass for once and for all. And it's going to have to be that way again. We have to be patient is the only thing, and keep praying that God protects us and that they get dealt with judiciously because they deserve to be in prison, all of them. But we're not going to see. We're not going to see that. So
no, there's definitely the level of the only justice I can think of that remedies that would fit these crimes against humanity for the amount of and the types of tortures they do is just something only God can fulfill. The call for justice from God is the only thing that can fulfill what these people have done to me anyway, and I'm sure all of you as well. I just don't know that there would ever be a punishment involving humans that could suffice. So
I know, and we'll probably never get reparations. We'll never get recompense for all that they've caused, all the suffering they've caused us. Our rewards are in heaven unless somehow miraculously, God gives the power to the military to just destroy them. It's the only way, but
Well, I think that there's pockets maybe of people in the military or in some of these organizations that scratch their head and are trying to figure out who's doing what to who. And then it's definitely the CIA. The CIA is very much involved in doing these tortures. I mean, even Midge mentioned that. She said that, and this really fascinated me. She said that the CIA does the torturing, the NSA does the data gathering, and the FBI does the fusion centers and the gang stalking. So that tells me a lot. The CIA controls the neuroweapon systems with deeply embedded within their deep we underground, literally underground, 8 stories down, military bases that are very secret, that have, who knows, miles and miles of, servers and storage technologies, and, the highest, 50 years ahead, anywhere from 20 to 50 years ahead of what is being described by Elon Musk. Just scratching the surface of there's the sophistication. I mean, listen to Nick Begich, or Bigot, I can't say his name, it's Begich, I think. Talk about the ionosphere and the magnetosphere of the Earth, and how the arrays, the directed energy weapons, the HARP systems, and all of those things, that they can piggyback on these energies all over globally. That's why people are targeted globally. You can travel and still get hit with this technology. I mean, that's CIA deeply embedded, military operations for sure. And then I think you have, from that point down, you have every smaller kind of technology that they're experimenting with too. But I do believe I've now believing much more in the whole artificial intelligence. They're going to need people with certain skill levels to program that artificial intelligence, and they can't do it. They're doing it with live guinea pigs, in very real life situations. And I think they introduced this hyper game theory to program how you get out of certain situations, or very, very real life threatened military style torture tactics in your mind and physically, so that they can map your strategy on how to get out of it. It's like playing chess,
Right.
It's very sophisticated, and it's all to map your survival techniques, or the way you work, how do you problem solve and figure things out, either spiritually or physically, or so on and so forth, to enhance the AI systems, so that the AI system, they want it to become sentient and understand human emotion. And the only way they can do that is to run the gamut of a brain through human emotion all the time, to the extremes. It's the good versus evil in the mind. That's why they use such perverse psychological torture tactics of the mind, and freak us out. And, because they're just so sadistic and twisted. And that's all artificially intelligence run. Because, no human is capable of being these avatars in my head 24 hours a day. That would be physically impossible of any human. So, obviously, they're and if you start questioning avatars or clones, you'll realize that they don't have answers, so that they're not humans, although they sometimes act like they are. It's hard to tell.
I don't understand what that whole avatar technology is. Is that when they merge a human being with like a computer, or what is an avatar?
Avatar.
It's a copy of a human within the AI system. So then they will sometimes heterodyne or mix that person.
Right.
Huh?
Sorry, go ahead. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, so they'll have a copy of me, okay, stored in the AI system, okay? And then what they'll do is they'll heterodyne somebody else's copy of that person with mine, in my mind, so that it's synthetic telepathy, so our minds are connected. In order to accomplish that heterodyning of people together, they have to torture the individual to get that person cloned, because they need every emotion possible within that soul to copy that person. So that's why they stress you out and freak you out. They break you down enough where they can program you on top of it with whatever they're trying to accomplish. And and then the AI will be sophisticatedly adept and taught how to handle every emotion, behavior, and potential behavior, whether it's a crime, like you pretend you need bread, so you're going to go steal bread, and they're going to be able to intervene and stop you from stealing, or they're going to be able to stop you from stealing a car, or not us, but you know what I mean, people. This intelligence system, which is, I think, is where they're headed. From everything that I'm reading, especially with all of it, they're really trying to push it. Within the sciences and the science community, it's becoming more accepted. AI is everywhere right now. And then what people don't know is that there's the whole transhumanist philosophy behind it, which is to merge the mind with the artificial intelligence to be used as a tool or sophisticated tool, weapon system to govern people with. And they can crowd control, they can sway elections, they can control the masses, they can influence anything they want. And once the artificial intelligence is programmed enough with enough minds and personalities, and then they can remote neural monitor everybody, they're trying to get a snapshot of all the population. That's why it's global targeting is going on, because they need personalities from every culture, to program this ginormous artificial intelligence system. And it seems like they just want to kill us, but they really just want to use us in the most sadistic way possible to program the artificial intelligence. And they do that with making copies of us. And then they merge the minds of two people. Then there's the hive mind, so that I guess the theory goes, if they can get 10,000 people programmed into the AI and connected to remote neural monitoring, they can influence cultures. It only takes like a start of about 10,000 people to influence and steer and direct populations of entire countries. So only 10,000 people are needed. And there's many more than that, but that's how they influence. They start influencing the shift, for example, let's pretend, and not having to do with tomorrow's election, but just they can shift the thinking of people between manipulating media, manipulating entertainment, manipulating music, the mentors or the influencers that are on mainstream culture, the celebrity culture. They can control them, and then they can influence the masses on top of it. And when it comes to people in power, they seduce them with this weapons technology. They get them they get them involved in the Epstein circles, and then they have bribery on them, so they can completely control them and blackmail them. So it's a controlled system for sure. And I'm really starting to really put it all together now, all these years later, and it's the ugly, scary part of all of this. And I think it's.
I was just going to interject. Go ahead.
Oh, let Tracy go ahead first. Yep.
Sorry.
Tracy.
Hi. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I have a question, and it's when you're talking about the computer that they have a copy and they can download a copy of someone else into your head. I have a question about that, and I can feel them beaming someone else's thoughts into mine and a personality that is not my own. And I can actually feel them beaming it into my gut and into my head. And if I ignore them and I focus and I concentrate and I think something else, I can feel them bounce off my head because I don't accept them. I'm keeping my brain busy, or it's less entrained or something. Is that what you mean by the copy that they can put in their head?
There's 2 or 3 processes I think that they're used. So they break you down with fear and adrenaline by gang stalking you or humiliating you. They break down your person, the physical, and then they use noise manipulation. They taunt you, letting you know that they're there around your home. Somehow they do that. a lot of noise manipulation for me over the years. Then that's how they initially got my attention. I knew it was mathematically impossible with all the manipulations they were doing. Then they start in training you was repetitive. I counted in my early years, was forced to count all the time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I was constantly counting it, and it wasn't OCD because I didn't have OCD. It wasn't even a trait of OCD, even though it smacks of it. It wasn't. It was something very different.
It was that.
I would tap my fingers in patterns. I had this pattern thinking, and that was kind of entrainment with linguistics.
Yes.
I noticed that they would do all. Yeah, looping, exactly. But then that really ramped up in my late teens, early 20s, and it transitioned over into the gang stalking events, the fear, the taunting, then the V2K kicked in, the manipulation, and then they went after the things I loved. And so that's all to break you down. And then the entrainment is the programming. So the entrainment of looping, what they want you to, how they want you to start thinking, what they want you to believe, program your mind. And then from there, the heterodyning is they're mapping your brain waves. The entrainment is mapping your brain waves to the words you say, so they could read your mind. I remember in 1995 going, my God, they are trying to read the waves of my brain to match the words that I'm saying. And it turns out I was right. I didn't realize it then that it was true. It was so scary to even talk about that it could be possible, because that meant I was crazy, you know? So it was that level. And so then the heterodyning has to do now with the graduation of these programs over time. They want a hive mind of people. So they can heterodyne this person with this person, and it would be the equivalent of finishing that person's sentence, if you will. You would be in harmony. Yeah. But I don't think, but I also read, or I think it was Dr. Robert Duncan mentioned that more than 4 people or 3 people, it makes you schizophrenic or something. You know, you can't, it's too crazy. That makes the person crazy, so it doesn't work.
Right. Because I can feel them, because I've been over 10 years now, but 4 years with full-on B2K, and I can feel the traumatizing in the beginning and everything that they're doing. I'm in a different phase now, it seems like, because that has lessened, and now I'm more mental. They're doing involuntary limb movements. I can feel them try to make me be someone else, and that's the heterodyning you're talking about. I can even feel there was a gal on the call Friday night, and she said, can anybody feel them do it through your mouth? And I couldn't, my phone just got turned back on today, so I couldn't address her in the chat, but I can feel them put impulses of forced speech. I can literally feel them moving my tongue to try to get me to speak out loud, and I can feel the energy go through my mouth. It's not all my own voice. It's them. I can feel the mess with my vocal cords. I mean, it's insane, but go ahead. What were you going to say about the heterodyning thing?
Yeah, there's some really good stuff on YouTube that explains the heterodyning for sure. So it's hetero, H-E-T-E-R-O, dyning, D-Y-N-I-N-G. Okay. And there's one woman in particular that does a really good job at teaching what it means, and I forgot her name. I'll have to look it up. But for anybody, I think Dana in Nevada, I think you wanted the name of the silver fabric. Yeah. And I have that for you. It's if you got a pen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lily. So you're very welcome. The name of the fabric I purchased was by a company called Amradield, AMRADIELD, conductive silver, RF shielding, anti-radiation, fabric. And now what they're doing is this is just the big title on the Amazon page. So it's so if you put anything in the search bar, it'll come up. So it sounds kind of weird, but it's just a descriptive. So the AMRA deals conductive, silver, electricity, RF, shielding, anti-radiation, fabric, elastic, and knitting cloth. And then they have 3 different sizes you can purchase. And I've purchased the 2 larger sizes, smallest and the largest sizes. But I don't recommend the smallest because it's so small. It's a strip, so I have to layer it like around my head, like a band, more than I can a wrap. So it is elasticized somewhat. It's a little stretchy. It's super soft. It's so cuddly. I live in the things. I have 2 of them. Well, actually 3 pieces now. And they're expensive. It's pricey, but I've invested in them, and it's saved my skin. And I promise you, it helps me sleep better at night. And I layer the suckers. Let me tell you what, I really do. So AMRA deals conductive, silver, electricity, RF shielding, anti-radiation, fabric, elastic, and knitting cloth. And yep,
Thank you.
The pieces. You're very welcome. And
I just wanted to add one more thing. Because I'm going to mute after this. But, I've been reading a lot. I've been listening to Frank's show for a long time, for over a year, and almost all the videos I've listened to. But the one thing that I learned about these projects or operations, whatever you want to call them, is that the ultimate goal is depopulation. So everybody knows that. And they are going to try to kill us all, okay? I mean, I'm not trying to sugarcoat it here, but the goal is depopulation, okay?
Right,
so,
and I don't disagree with that. It's almost scriptural, We know that there's tribulation that's ahead, according to Scripture. So we have an idea that that's what they're trying to do. My hope is that God intervenes, before well in time for them to realize that they have overstepped their bounds and they are stepping on God's toes, and now they're going to reap what they have sown, and then I wonder if it's been part of the tribulation all this time because they've been torturing people behind the scenes and nobody knew about it,
Well, I think that about the tribulation, when I read Revelation 6, it talks about, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And the one horse, it starts out, it's the white one. That horse is representative of the conquering aspect. And then the black horse is the horse where it has power to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another. So there's going to be people killing each other. And I think that's where we're at, but I could be wrong.
That started, the fulfillment of that actually started in 1914 because that's when World War I broke out. And 1914 was a really interesting year. If you ask most people, they'll say that's the year that changed life on Earth for everybody because the Great Wars broke out. And then World War II happened. Then you had the 1918 pandemics. All kinds of things started after 1914. And you had death, pestilence, wars, famines broke out. You had the Great Depression. And, that had a rippling effect. So all kinds of really bad things have gone on this past 100 years, exponentially. So I try to look at it in a big group, if you will, of pangs of distress, the beginnings of all these distresses. You had all these reports of war. Then you had actual wars. things that were prophesied about. So to me, it feels more like we're climaxing into it now, much more than because there's been record numbers of earthquakes have increased. All those weird, bad, catastrophic events have increased, and we're hearing more and more and more about it. And then, of course, we are on the front lines of experiencing these wrathful nations, if you will, and their bad behavior. So, I just believe that they have pushed so far that now we're getting to the point where things are going to start happening, and hopefully we're at much more closer to that intervention that we will be very happy about. And I'll never put a limit on how God works with this, how he's going to, because I know he knows it's happening, so, and I know he doesn't approve of it.
Well, when you see that, our currency, okay, I'm paying attention to that. So cryptocurrency and blockchain is all integrated into their system of things. So it seems like the COVID is a way to devalue every nation's currency to bring on the digital currency and then transition it to the microchip. That's what I think. So.
Yeah, who knows how it's all going to sugar off, and if they just want to cause. The other thing I used to think of, I used to just want to say, okay, it's this country doing it to this country to instigate this country. They're instigating countries, China with Russia and Russia with China, or China and America with China, and then, of course, Russia with America, America with Russia. And I was thinking, okay, so they're just trying to cause all these disruptions, and now I'm really starting to think, instead of it just being this one super group, it's a group, it's a conglomerate of nations that are doing this, and they have their agendas, and I think that they are covertly having their agendas. It's almost like they have deal making going on behind the scenes as to what their agendas are and how they want to resolve them. And I also believe that there's a neural weapons race involved in all of this too. They want to be the biggest, the baddest, and other countries don't want America to be the superpower anymore. The United Nations wants to be the superpower. So they all want their hands in the power of the cookie jar. The cookie jar is the power cookie jar, and everybody wants their hands in the power of the cookie jar.
Right.
So
and
I
if you're gonna
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, please do.
Oh no, I think that after all my reading and studying and researching, that it boils down to the biggest organizations that are pulling all the strings is the CFR, UN, the Bilderbergs, and the League of Nations, and even the Pope, okay, and the Vatican. I think it's all totally meshed into one agreement for New World Order.
Well, the League of Nations died out and eventually became the United Nations. So it would be the United Nations, and then its charter members, right? And then you would have so what, from what I understand and what the scriptures are saying, and then from other people, just people who have been behind the scenes, one of the things that the theories, that has always been part of the back current philosophical underground, if you will, of these conglomerate nations, is that religion is a pain in but because it interferes with their ruling. And they also believe it's very divisive amongst tribes and nations, right? So one of the bigger things that's the undercurrent to what you call depopulation may just be the ending of religion. And I am a much bigger theorizing that that's where they're headed. They're doing some of these programs to kind of search for God, to find what makes people tick and what religions they want to replace, because they know that humans are hardwired for God. They've proven it scientifically. We have a tendency, we know that whenever we're in a crisis, we look for God naturally. Like, we even have the way we get excited and all of a sudden we say, like, oh my God, just common language even. We're always looking outside ourselves. And so they're never going to be able to do away with that instinct. And there are some theories that they want to replace religions or annihilate religions. And I think that this is part of that. And especially if you're in a spiritual program, that's why so many of us call it spiritual warfare, because I think they're pushing around and pushing people's buttons to see where they go to spiritually, and if they can provoke God or the idea of God or how people cope with God, and the way they do that. And ultimately it's to program the artificial intelligence to sway thinking and to get people to leave religion too. There's a big movement that people have left organized religions, a lot in some parts of the world. They've lost a lot of their power over people, and I think that they've swayed some of the thinking, and then they've exposed some very undesirable traits of some of these religions too. So,
let me. Can I just say one more thing? I'm sorry, but my aunt and uncle, who I told you about. Okay, one of the things they believe, because I found out their belief system. Okay, I did a lot of trickery, like to get things out of my aunt. Okay, but they believe that Lucifer is God and that they have to destroy the God of Christianity, like our God, okay, that we believe Jesus died for our sins, He's our Savior. They believe they have to destroy the Christians that believe in the only one true God, and that is their justification, and that Lucifer is God. That's what my aunt believes. Isn't that sick?
Yes, it's very sick.
Well, I was just
really
going to interject that if you want to know the summary of this plan, you look at the old document by Albert Pike, who was big-time Freemason, and documents were written in the late 1800s. You can look that up, and it will explain, he had a plan that he shared that they've been working around the world through the Freemason connections, which crosses all countries, all organizations, all companies, and they plan World War I, World War II, and they're planning World War III. And the ultimate goal is, as Lily was explaining, and this other lady too, is that they want to eliminate faith in God and replace it with the Luciferian agenda, as they call it. So you can look that up. That document is freely available online.
Is it Pike?
And you'll see that the plan has already been laid out for over 100 years.
Wow, that might be where it stems from them. Thank you for that, Sue. Is it Pike, P-I-K-E or P-Y-K-E?
P-I-K-E, Albert Pike.
Okay.
Freemasons, it should pop right up.
I'll talk about Freemasons over the past year. I've never actually dove in to see what they believed because I figured they were just another sect or group embedded within all the other groups. But what I was starting to do recently was look for the source of the theories and the philosophies, because what I never paid attention to was in all my studies. I've studied a lot of history. I have a bachelor's. I went to college and all that stuff. And I never really, so I've heard, and I took philosophy and psychology and all that stuff. And then, but during all these years, I never paid attention to the influence, not necessarily the concrete theorists or that governmental institutions turn out as far as their own agendas, but the coffee house philosophies. In the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and you'd go to the coffee shops or the diners, not necessarily diners, you know what I'm talking about, in the cities where the big philosophers would hang out and they'd have dinner parties.
Yeah.
Those guys have more power than any of us could have ever realized. They slowly took these philosophies of these men and these women, the Anne Ryands, and they would reach the news some of the time, where people would do reports on them. These philosophers yielded great power over the thinkers of the day, and I didn't pay enough attention to the power of those types of philosophers in my time. And it sounds like, if what you're saying of this Albert Pike, that might be where some of that stems from, because I have read, however, they do want to do away with religion, and I think that's so. If you wonder what I thought was going on for 25 years, I thought they just wanted to destroy my faith for 25 years. Whoever they were, they just didn't like my beliefs. They probably thought I was in a sect or whatever, and I've heard all kinds of things. And so that could very well be then where that stems from, that thinking. So I'm really going to dive into understanding what the Freemasons are about, because
you really have to look into it, because it's not just words and it's not just a piece of paper. It's a complete network, and they're also into, magic and rituals and stuff like that.
Are they? Okay.
I'm not saying look at the rituals. I'm saying look at the connections. Look at the prominent people that have run our country and what memberships they had with it.
Okay, so the people, is this where a lot of the, let's just keep it simple let's just be generalized, stereotypical stuff, where you have the higher institutions of learning, so all the big universities, the Ivy Leagues and whatnot, they all have their private societies, those groups where they're, blood brothers for life kind of thing. Is that where some of that stems over from, like the skulls, or all those different groups that you just think that they influence ultimately. They do. They get in power, and they rely on those networks from when they were back at university or whatever. So I wonder if it's networks similar to that with the Freemasons.
I think it's fashioned after it. Yeah.
Yeah, or they're connected. In other words, I don't know if the skulls are connected
exactly, because I've never been involved.
Me either.
I just, I imagine that's how they get started, like they get initiated, that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, but see, what I was gearing up for, what I was trying to figure out, is to understand the philosophies and the purpose and the motive. I'm looking for motive of what they're trying to accomplish, because they've taken 26 years, of my life, and I'm trying to figure out
it's not just 26 years; it's thousands of years. Here, take a look at this for a moment. Try to suspend your sense of logic and just imagine how they are operating on these other. They're trying to access the connections that everyone has to God so that they can rule the world, all right? They want to access your faith so that they can cut it off and claim the power. They're more interested in power, and they want it on all the levels that they can. So if they cut God out of it and they cut people's faith out of it, then they just have people running around in chaos and fear. Then they think they have power. But let me just add in this caveat that it's the illusion of power that they're actually trying to go after. They will never have true power because they'll never have God. But I just want to say that for everybody.
Well,
if they don't have God, they don't ever have true power. What they're trying to do is substitute their own God. Take the word God out of there. It's not really. It's their own idol to, present themselves with some kind of facade of power and control. And it's not really logical. It's all about ego, and they're trying to go through these, the mental levels, the, weaponry, the corporations, up and down the ladder of frequencies. They want to control as much of it as they can so that they can pretend to be little gods running around. Pulling the strings of the world.
Well, it certainly matches what we're seeing, that's for sure, what we're experiencing, what you're saying. And those are the answers that I've been, really trying to match what I've experienced, the common themes of what they've tried to put in my head with, why, so...
Well, that's because it's because you're trying to figure it out, that they throw things at you to make it confusing and more laborious for you to come up with any answers. But that's because it's the way you think that they make that harder.
Yeah.
Did you hear me?
They're in for a rude awakening. Ultimately. Because it's just so brazen, I think that there's not going to be natural consequences to these programs and their actions. So there will be. We all have to continue with, and so the strategies that I'm trying to build up within my own self are the things that always made me feel good. And I kind of hit a personal snag, where I kind of got tripped up. It wasn't a relationship per se, but, I discovered I wanted a relationship and was, kind of being a target. It's a really hard thing to accomplish, so I kind of got tripped up in that over the past few months. So I'm trying to go, okay, that wasn't a good idea, because it'll just get manipulated anyway, so I'm discouraged about that on a personal level, and I was looking for the good stuff to want to encourage me to want to be alive, I know it sounds weird, but they really sucked it to me. So the past 5 years, I just kind of went, meh, I'm done, I just don't, they killed the will for me to want to be alive, and I'm trying to find the good stuff. And that's what I really wanted. When Frank asked me to do this call, one of my goals is to try to find the almost infectious good stuff, the aha moments that can really encourage us, and to find the reasons. And I have grandchildren, and because of COVID right now, they're brand new. I have two, a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old grandsons that I can't see right now because they live in an atmosphere that's had COVID, because the other grandfather, or the other side of the family, had it he's a professional pilot, and I can't get it. I have zero tolerance because if I get it, it'll probably kill me because of the type of lungs I have. So, I've had to be isolated from them because they also still go to daycare, and oh my gosh, who knows what they carry? They always seem to have sniffles. So, those grandchildren would be my aha moments or my wow moments, the good stuff. And those are the things I want to encourage all of us to find, whether, it's kissing the cheek of your grandkid, or you're having an animal to love, or, finding the strength within yourself, no matter how miserable we all feel, to just hug a relative, or, just to do good things for people, because there is more happiness in giving than receiving, and we can find strength in that. I'm always trying to do good things for people, and to keep encouraging other people, to keep motivating, to wanting to do better or feel better. I mean, because I know we all do our best. If there's ever a person on this planet that does everything we can do to do our best, it's us. I'm always trying to do my best in every situation, and it's not always easy to do, So the positiveness of why life is good and worth living and worth fighting for, and our integrity and our dignity, and remembering that life isn't supposed to be this way for us. It's not. This is not the way life is supposed to be. And they will not take my faith that says life will be better someday, even if it's in a different lifetime. That things will be better. Things will be righted. The wrongs will be righted. And I think of and to be honest, I look at the patterns of history that I've studied. The people who have suffered terrible lives. There are people who lived entire lifetimes. And I believe that there will be justice for them. I do, and that they will have another chance at life and living a good life. And so reparations might not come in this lifetime, and I have to accept that. And that there will be reparations of a different kind. God's not going to make promises to us that we have deep within our soul and break those promises. There are basic promises of natural life, too. You know what I mean? That those come. It's like the need to you almost like we're without getting into AI programming or genetic programming is, God programming us to have children or have our biological clock tick, or, those kinds of things. Those are natural laws almost, if you will, of who we are. And we have a natural trait, if you will, of justice. We have a sense of justice, of right and wrong. And God's not going to put that in us so that will never be remedied or satisfied someday. If you ever doubt that there will be justice, just recall that feeling you have of wanting justice. And if you want it, how much more God will. I have to believe in that when I'm at my worst moment and say, justice will come. And it didn't come right away for a lot of other people. I have had to, and I would always tell myself that year after year after year, that I have to be patient, and I don't understand it now, but hopefully I'll understand it someday, and that those answers will come. And here they are. And so I've graduated up to a different level of understanding now, and I will never leave the belief or the idea that there will be a remedy, and the bad people are wrong, and the Luciferians are wrong, and the devil is wrong, And he started out as a spirit. According to Scripture, if you believe that there's a devil, Satan, the definition of Satan is resistor, and the very definition of devil is slanderer. So Satan, the devil, is resistor and slanderer. And he started a movement, that slandered God. And he convinced a lot of the other angels that he was right. And, according to Revelation, they were booted out of heaven. They were kicked out. And they came down to the earth having great anger, knowing they have a short period of time. So if people are worshiping that madness, because that's what demons are, they were relabeled instead of angels, or angel means messenger. So they were relabeled fallen ones. There's all kinds of words, and then people go back and they go to the Sumer and the Sumerian tablets and all these anecdotal histories of oral histories too, of the origins of man, the oldest written histories we have. And if they're going back there to say, oh, the demons were right, no, the demons were wrong. They usurped God's authority, and they usurped his sovereignty ultimately. And, that's why things are such a mess for humans. And so obviously the demons are wrong. The Luciferians are wrong. And Lucifer, the very word Lucifer is interpreted as meaning shining one. So that actually isn't even a name or a label attributed to Satan. It was one of the kings of Babylon in biblical history. And it might have been Nebuchadnezzar, who is related to as being shining one, who fell, because he had great power, and God humbled him at some point. And it's hard for me to remember that particular story in detail, but I know Lucifer. People think Lucifer is the name of Satan, and it's not. It's a label, and they don't understand the Scripture, so they take it and they mutate it into something awful, and if they think he's any kind of Lucifer, anything is correct, then it just goes to show how debased and debauched their thinking is. It's not based on the covenant of love, which is a fulfillment of anything that Jesus is about, and so I won't get too preachy, but the point is that love is supposed to be the mainstay and the hallmark quality, not debased, debauched, power grabbing, and torture, and these occultish theories that are rampantly running loose on the earth right now, that have obviously infiltrated the thinking of the people in power. And, so just hang on to the idea that even if you don't necessarily believe in God, that if you have a sense of justice and you maybe believe that there's some type of, higher energy or power that's good, it'll call into justice. It will call into justice.
Does it matter?
Does it matter?
What the fuck does it matter?
Because it's the only thing to keep me sustained, Steve. So we're sustained.
Does it keep you sustained? Does it really?
Yeah.
Does it? Does it actually keep you sustained? How? How does it keep you sustained?
26 years later. I know you're mad. Huh? I don't blame you, buddy. You're pissed. I get it. I do. I'm pissed too.
Yeah.
Huh?
This is bullshit,
I get it,
man.
Steve.
God is bullshit. Nobody doesn't solve anything, man. Nobody wants to fucking talk about God. It doesn't solve any fucking problems. And everyone's getting all mad at each other for stupid bullshit reasons, when the truth is you're just hiding a fucking polygamy cult or whatever the fuck it is. Right? You're all full of shit.
Who is? A polygamy cult? I don't believe in polygamy.
You know what? You need to back that up and apologize immediately, mister. That was inappropriate, unnecessary, and damning to your own character. You need to back that up and apologize, mister.
Yeah, and you need to get off this call if you don't like what you're hearing. Buzz off.
There's always one in the bunch that'll ruin it.
He's mad, you know. He has his own experience, and he can rant all he wants. You know, I'm going to believe in justice, and I'm going to believe that whoever is doing this, and for whatever their philosophy is, you know, they're wrong. And that's what. Hey, 25 years later, I've got some type of faculties left in my faith and hope for sure. You know. So I have to be sustained on the idea that justice will happen. I do. That's what matters.
You have to stay positive, you know. I mean, if you lose your positivity, they've won half the battle.
Exactly. And so here's the nugget. The nugget is we got to find the things that make it positive. Like painting something. I know it sounds silly, but if you love to paint, or if you love to knit, or you love to kiss your grandbaby's cheeks, or you need to go pet a baby duck, or a petting zoo. I don't know, but those are the moments. It's almost like I need to incorporate them daily. And this COVID thing isn't helping, But I'm trying to pull myself up by the bootstraps too. And if anybody has any suggestions about things that they want to do, or even dream about doing, share those dreams, because those are the things we got to build ourselves up with. The sparkly parts. How have you guys gotten through this? What have you done? So I've heard from Dana, she prays. Does anybody, they find exercising helps, swimming.
Yeah, it's whatever helps you get through the day. If it's, keeping up with your nutrition and exercise, if it's reading, your faith, your prayer, laughter is one that I like. I try to find the humor in all of this. And whatever you need to do, and besides just complaining, because I don't think that actually helps in the long run. But, once you get it out one time, it doesn't help to just repeat all the problems. But keeping something light in your heart, a goal, even if it's just like a short list, all right, I'm going to do these 3 things today. If I don't do them all, it'll be all right. If I do more, it'll be all right. Just, get through the next day and the next day. Trying not to figure it out. Trying not to figure it all out, because no one's ever going to figure it all out. There's too many different pieces of the puzzle for any one of us to have it all.
Right.
Well, that's actually a very good point, because we only have to worry about one half of it, and that's our half. Because if you ask the question, what are we doing sitting around while I'm sure our opposition is not doing what we're doing? We're on a brand new path, humanity, and it's a path we've never known, dreamed of, imagined in our existence, but we're there, and we're carrying the load of both halves. We only have to carry the load of ourselves and our half, and we have to ask the question, do they spend all of their time talking about what happened last night or yesterday? No. They spend all their time talking about what they're going to do tonight and tomorrow and the next day to us. So we have to split. We have to split that and say, okay, let's quit worrying about what they have done or who's doing it or how they're doing it. Let's just see if we can't come up with some way to prevent them from doing the same things over and over that they have been doing, some way to disrupt or stop or infiltrate or whatever. We've got some whole lot bigger fish to fry. I don't know if anybody heard of what happened in France. The teacher that had her head lopped off this week, and the 17-year-old girl that had her head lopped off this week in France. And the police and the authorities, they won't even go after the people because they're taking over part of France. They're Muslim, and they have weapons and guns and are ready to start a war. So, what do? You don't sit around and talk about, it's bad. It's bad that these women, this young girl had what happened, but you can't stand there in it forever. You have to make a forward step toward some solution. It doesn't matter.
Well, what do you think that solution would look like, though, Richard? We're all solution-driven, but we don't know what to do.
Well, the solutions is to, number one, figure out what they're doing and how to stop it. And as far as all of the different things we talk about, we've talked it to death for years and years and years, so we sort of are pretty knowledgeable about the majority, even if we're off on this and that a little bit. It doesn't really matter. We've got people doing things to us. We've got people that are planning on taking over or bringing down not just ourselves. See, that's another thing. We got to quit being stuck in our own stories. They're talking about bringing down this whole country and perhaps even the whole world, being under one world government. The Bible speaks of it. It's nothing new. It's been talking about it for years and years. So we have to find the answers. We have to come up with some sort of truth, and we're not going to find them in a book or from a philosopher or from a demon. We're going to find them from each other. We all are sitting here full of the answers because of what we have experienced and has happened to ourselves. There are all the answers within us. And grouping and becoming one has always been the aspect. If you're an army of ants, hey, you can get out and make some differences and do some things. If you're one ant, you're probably just going to get run over by the car, and that's it. But in a group of anything, the history, the stories, all through time has proven, even the story of the 300 men, soldiers that backed up into a particular spot called the Hot Gates and held off the whole Persian army, a country called Sparta. 300 men held off the whole army. And it was because they decided, okay, here it is. We know what they want. They want to come and take our water. They want to take our women. They want to destroy our children. They want to destroy our culture. They want to take over our lives and turn us into slaves. We've got to put up a fight. And I'm not saying you got to pick up a sword or even a shield to protect yourself with. I'm just saying they did. They picked up a sword and a shield, then used their head, their intelligence, to try to stop it. And if they're doing their job, what they're doing every day is figuring out what they're going to do to us tomorrow, then we're not doing ours because we sit around and talk about what they have done and how terrible it is. It's time we start working on a little bit further into the future and take our minds off of our individual selves and stories and realize that as bad as our stories are, they don't get any better down the line. Everyone else's is just as bad. So to support each other is, well, that's how you come together. You come together and say, okay, yeah, we both got two bad legs now or one ugly hairdo because of all this targeting. But, well, we're going to pick up the shield and we're going to pick up the sword if that's what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just want to.
The difference is
that
sometimes the new people come in, they feel victimized, they are victimized, but they feel weak and helpless. But over time, I should add, that TIs tend to get stronger, they tend to get wiser, they get more strategic. And that's the voice, you're hearing Richard, who's been at this for a long time. He's saying, like, don't just be a victim. Be proactive. Think ahead of what you're going to do. You don't have to figure it all out. Just know who you are and stand for it, and not just be, kind of wishy-washy and, afraid all the time. Step up. And that's what happens after a while. I think the new people come to know that, who they were and who they still are is worth fighting for. And they don't have to be convinced anymore.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate everybody's story, and I just want you to know that I've learned a lot from listening to everybody tell their stories, and so that part of it is important. And it is right that we should be proactive and think for the future and be prepared for whatever's coming is right.
Yeah, because we have no idea. Even though we seem to be selected for these operations, I'm trying not to use the word targeted anymore. We're selected for it for special reasons. But everybody in the world is under some kind of, agenda, let's say. And Richard, you must have heard about Austria today. In Vienna, there was a big shootout. A bunch of people died, and that was in Austria. So they're looking into that as a terrorist act also.
Well,
so it's not just us, it's good for us to be prepared, mentally, physically, for whatever might come. Economics might change, politics change, things change. But if you're centered in your truth,
can I add something?
then
Hi, Sue.
you'll be able to face it, whatever it is.
Yes, and it is right. I remember when I first started, my phone's going to die. I'm just going to say something really quick. When I first got knowledge of this program, it's been going on for years, but I'm just got knowledge maybe 5 years ago. I was insane with why, and I had to stop. I have a saying, God grant me the serenity to accept that I may be a targeted individual under human and consensual experimentation, and give me the courage to deal with it one day at a time. You wake up in the morning, you don't deal with what happened to you in the course of the night. You deal with what you can do about it today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Good night, you guys.
Good night, Constance. Thank you. Sleep well, honey.
Well, somewhere along the way, we have to group up the smarts, group up the positive, truthful information, the answers that we need, and put it in some sort of motion of progression. Because so far, I keep going around in my head thinking, okay, get me some merry-go-round music, and every time I come to a call and it's just going around and around, sit there and play merry-go-round music for everybody, because that's what's going on with these calls. We are not moving forward. We're not talking. Today is Monday. No one has said anything about, okay, next Monday Lily's going to be back on. What can we look up? What can we verify? Who can maybe we get to come to the call and do an interview? What positive things in motion can we do for each other? How many of us are living just blocks away from each other and don't even know it? How many of us are sitting there with the very answers to some of the issues and problems that has been upon us just for the last few days, and we're not even talking about it? We have to have some guidelines, some progression to make something better. I mean, if nothing but just sing along, kumbaya, roast some marshmallows or whatever. It's running a little dry on our side. The other side is very well organized and very well funded, and they're having a good old time. But I'd like to put a little kink in their day every chance I get, which I do quite often. I coined the phrase a while back. It was called, I said, B2A, and that is boot to ass, because the V2K is bad, and the B2A is bad also. And both exist. Everything in between those two, boots on the ground, satellite and weaponry and all that stuff, it all exists. And it really breaks my heart to hear anybody that talks a boot on the ground or boot to ass leave out all the other aspects of this targeting, and also the other way around, the people that are always talking about the weaponry and the satellites, leaving out the boots on the ground. But I've said it a many times, we are all approached physically and are being put into this situation by chemicals, drugs, and constant physical contact, and we don't even know it. We have no memory of it. They can't go to a computer and type out a brand new name for some unrealistic avatar to put you in this computer as an avatar unless they've got you hooked up and wired and chemicalized and chipped and everything else. So it seems to me if you don't want to get to the end of the trail, you start at the beginning of the trail, and that's the boots on the ground. That's the people that are coming in or going from your homes and your cars and your persons and doing all the things they're doing, because it takes them years to get you to where they don't have to go to your house anymore very often. But that's exactly what's happening. And until we pile everything on the table and have a look at all of it, we're not going to come up with anything that's going to help us.
Well, I want to just say that I get it. I get where you're at. You're frustrated. Everybody is. But I will say that I appreciate every single thing that's being said on this call. I do. And I don't care if it sounds like a merry-go-round. Some people are new. Some people have never heard of Targeted Massachusetts. And if they come on and hear me or hear Lily talk about her experience, then now they're acclimated. They feel comfortable to share their experience. And, you know, at one point, you know, I heard on this other conference call that I was listening to that, you know, they stopped having targeted individuals talk about their experience. You know, being in this position, having our voice talk about it actually is very freeing, and it has been for me. And what is the solution when we're at war, when we are defenseless? The only solution in my mind is to actually pray. And I'm going to be fasting this month. I'm taking out a whole week to fast and pray against all of it. And I don't know if anybody else wants to do that with me, but that's what I plan on doing. And that's my way of being proactive, because it's a supernatural, spiritual warfare. It's not just physical, but it all starts with, the forces of good and evil. And so I don't want anybody on this call to feel discouraged because they've shared their story or they're sharing their information, which is very, very important, because there's new listeners that are going to actually hear these calls. And I appreciate everybody. I appreciate everybody's experience, what they've gone through, because it's very difficult. And don't feel condemned, okay? And I'm going to go to bed because I got to get up. And I love you all.
Well, thank you so much, Dana, and Richard too, for your input as well. And I appreciate your words, Dana. And I do appreciate everybody's contribution, and everybody's at different stages and what they think they can do to accomplish anything. And believe me, if there was anything I thought I could come up with a solution for by now, I wish I could. I would do anything. I first had to understand, though, this is a process of learning, and I've had to get to the nuts and bolts of this matter, which is why. Okay, why? What is so important? And it turns out, it's neural weapon systems development, and why would they do this to me? Well, this is why, and that's I had to first figure it out. I mean, I'm a year into this, even though I've been targeted for a very, 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 very tiring long time. So believe me, if there's going to be a solution, I think some of us, we're going to work towards that. But first, we have to understand it. And I haven't been coming on the calls for years. So I also want to encourage everything and anybody to say everything and anything they can. They feel compelled to share, whatever that is.
Absolutely. And all the new people that are coming in, it breaks my heart when they don't feel free to talk, because they do need to talk. And here's the crazy thing, guys. The majority of us that have been around for a long, long time, we've got less information than the new ones coming in do, because theirs is unspoiled and untouched and unmanipulated so far. We've all been wrapped up in the misinformation and digging and having too many answers to come up with. So they're kind of new babes with pure information. So I encourage all of them to speak and talk and share and at least say hi, and would never, ever indicate that they shouldn't, because they should. All of the answers that we need lie within each other. I say again, I've spent many hours, weeks, and months and years on the phone with TIs and taking the notes and writing the stories and doing the testing of things that they would talk about, and verified many of the things that they were going through, not just on my behalf, but on behalf of every TI around, because everything that I could verify was an answer toward the truth. And that's where our answers are. It's not in books and letters and different places. It's within us, plain and simple.
Well, thank you, Richard. So I know some people are just finding their way here now, and that's okay if you're joining us late in the evening. If there's anything you'd like to add or anything you want to say, please feel free. Anything you want to discuss?
I just want to tell you I appreciate your doing this. I've learned a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope so.
Yeah, I have a lot of things in common with y'all, and it really helps to be, I guess it kind of is uplifting to know that you're not so alone,
Yeah, I find the loneliness from all of this the worst poison of all of it. Besides, the mind and the torture and all of those things, what they're doing to me, but the side effect of it all, besides the pain, is the loneliness is so painful. It really is.
Yes,
well, we're not alone. Don't be alone. There's many TIs out there. There's many phone numbers available and ways to connect with those people. It's not going to work with everyone. We don't connect with everyone, but there are chances of meeting someone that you might, as you said, actually like or even love. And it works. Many people are talking and connecting. And, well, just so the whole community knows, I've said this before, I'll say it again, and I mean it with everything I am, and that is if I ever had the opportunity to stand up and be the one in the right place at the right time on behalf of all TIs, and I can give my life to stop just one of your sufferings, I will do so.
Richard, that's more than kind.
No.
No, and I'm sure a lot of us feel that way. There's a way, believe me, to stop this. Who wouldn't? It's just the unfathomable.
Together. That's the only way, together. Isolated is a purposeful situation. They've set it in place for many, many good reasons on their behalf. And that's the one thing, speaking of solutions, that we need to disrupt and completely squash and dismantle, and that is our isolation.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
But you're not alone. You're never alone. I realize everybody don't believe in God. There's a little bit more to it than a book. There's more to it than the promises made, and that is the belief. The belief in those promises and the belief in the one that made those promises. I would simply suggest if anyone is questionable about that whole thing, learn and get to know a gentleman named Jesus. He was a man. He walked this earth. He lived and breathed and bled just like we do. And he's easy to find his stories in the New Testament.
Yeah, I couldn't do this without my faith in the Lord. That's been my saving grace.
Yeah. For many of us too, yeah, I agree. You know, our faith, and that's where justice comes from me, you know, in my faith.
Well, you had two gifts that most people don't even know, but righteousness and grace was given to you as a gift. The very minute that Jesus died on the cross, he not only died for you, he died for his Father too. Did you know that? He died for God. He died to justify the existence of his Father. And at that moment, the deal was sealed. It's a done deal. Righteousness and grace is yours forever to keep and take care of however you choose. And you can find that in the book of Romans, somewhere around the 4th and 5th chapter.
Well, I'm trying to stay on goal and wrapping up around midnight. So why don't I just put the warning out that we'll start winding down now for the call for the evening, and we'll close up our little shop talk at around, let's say it's 12:07, So how about another, we'll end at 12:20 tonight. So if there's anything anyone wants to add, maybe on a positive note. Does anybody have a happy story they'd like to share? Something funny? Maybe a funny joke? I always use a good joke.
Well, this 87-year-old lady, she finally got her a date. Her daughter was a little bit concerned because she hadn't been dating for a long time, so she asked about it, and the guy was 91. And, well, okay, can't much go on there, but she waited for her mom to get home. When her mom got home, she said, okay, how'd the date go? Mom said, it's okay. Threw her pocketbook down. She said, no. Tell me about the date now. I need details. And her mom said, well, I did have to continuously go upside his head all night long. And her daughter's like, oh, so he was groping you and trying to flirt with you. And her mom said, no, just had to keep waking him up.
Oh, too funny.
But other than that, I'll bid you guys good night and hang in there. Keep your head up and pray.
Thank you, Richard. You have a good night, too. Carry on in righteousness and persevere in prayer.
I was just checking my camera on my regular phone. And somebody with my dad's voice said, fantastic. You think we can record her?
What's that? You said what?
Hello?
Yeah. I didn't hear what you said.
Who is this?
This is Lily. I didn't hear what you had said. I'm sorry. Hello? Okay, well, is there anyone who would like to share any information, or anyone else who'd like to have anything to say? Maybe we'll start winding down then. And you're always welcome. Frank will have another call on Wednesday night and again on Friday night, as most of you know. And why don't we just wrap up now? It sounds like people are tired and alrighty then. Let's call it a night, and I wish you all the best. And
good night. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Everyone have a good evening, and carry on.
Good night.
Good night. Good night, everybody.